I've spent practically every moment since this campaign started, not on fundraising, but on getting my message out to the people. And I have to say that in the process of that, I've alienated probably every big money donor in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. So I'm not going to be getting any money from those guys. I need some money from you. We're not spending your money on expensive consultants or glossy TV commercials. We're doing this on a busman's budget. But with that, we have a 50-state organization. We're blowing up social media. We're really performing very well on the podcast. I hope that you also have an assurance that when I get to the White House, I'm going to spend your money wisely as well. So even if you can only give $5 or $10, I value that very, very much. So please give us your support today.
Another poll shows that former President Trump is leading the 2024 race by more than 5 points. A new National Harris X Messenger survey finds 48% of voters support Trump compared to 41% for Joe Biden. That's a 7-point deficit. Add Robert F. Kennedy Jr. into the mix, and he takes 12% of the vote, expanding Trump's lead to 9 points. Now, yesterday, RFK Jr. announced that he has gathered enough signatures to appear on New Hampshire's general election ballot in November.
All I need to do is to get the 34 points to win the election, and I'm already at 24.
Wow.
Average in the battleground state.
Are you on the ballot in these battlegrounds?
No, but I'll be on the ballot in every state and the District of Columbia. We just completed our signatories today for New Hampshire. We got 5,000 signatures in a single day. So it took us 1 day to qualify for New Hampshire.
RFK Jr. is making a couple of points there. Assuming that he pulls, that the vote basically that is not for him is split pretty much down the middle, which in most elections it is in recent history. He is right that he only has to capture about 30-odd% of the vote, 34% of the vote. And if you reflect on it, so many pundits have pointed out that Trump's core base is only about that 33% of the party. That obviously once he wins a nomination, everybody decides to vote red no matter who, just like the Democrats do on the other side, but that the core base of support is never that much more than that third of the general Republican public. So maybe there is really a lane here for RFK Jr. to do what so many people said was impossible.
Absolutely, there is, and he's right that his favorability is higher than either of his rivals. He's drawing support from a lot of different corners. The issue in the past has been that independent and third-party candidates, they can put up some impressive poll numbers, and then that support melts away right before the election. When push comes to shove, even people who indicated they were interested in a third party end up voting for either the Republican or the Democrat.
My favorability ratings are now better than either President Trump or President Biden. I am beating both President Trump and President Biden in all Americans under 45. In the 6 battleground states, I'm beating them across the country, but very, very decisively with independent voters which are now the biggest party. This will be the first election in American history where independents are now the biggest self-identified party. I'm gaining points in the election, about 1 point a month, and I've got 9 months.
Now, in the Ross Perot election, with the last time there was a significant third-party vote, we have to remember that a lot of weird things actually happened in that election. Like Ross Perot dropped out at the last minute and then re-entered the race like right before the election, which actually shook his base of support. He might have done better if he had not had this very weird kind of stunt where he decided not to run and then changed his mind about it. So we're seeing someone getting poll numbers like him, but maybe having a steadier hand with respect to the campaign he's running could make a difference. It's going to be fascinating.
I think what you said is true that President Biden is probably not going to campaign, and that the Democrats are relying on the court cases and to try to derail the election, to try to keep President Trump off the ballot. And I think that's a very, very bad strategy. I think it's bad for democracy. I think it's bad for the Democratic Party. I think it's bad for everybody.
It sure is. I mean, he wouldn't debate you. Now it might look like he's not going to debate Trump. He's not going to campaign.
It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, here's another thing that could happen is that we have seen kind of an interest, let's say, kind of like I'm RFK Jr. curious interest from a lot of conservative-leaning independents and conservatives up until this point. And it's broadly correlated with the belief that RFK Jr. being on the race helps Trump and hurts Biden. And from the polls we just read, that continues to be the case. But the closer he actually gets to capturing a third of the vote as compared to Trump's third of the vote, I do wonder if we're going to see a different kind of media attention being given to him if he's going to continue to get relatively friendly platforms like the clip we just saw on Jesse Waters' show, whether or not he's going to get the same kind of gracious treatment from folks online like Elon Musk, or if they're going to start suddenly paying attention to the fact that he's been an environmental lawyer for the last 30 years, or the fact that he supports canceling student debt and any host of other Democratic policies because he was running as a Democrat until 2 seconds ago with "I'm a Kennedy Democrat" emblazoned across his website. I do wonder if that is going to become more and more of a factor as both sides of the two corporate parties decide that he's a real threat. Yeah,
I mean, he has an eclectic mix of policy proposals that frankly, I'm sure, and he would explain why they're perfectly consistent. I'm not saying they're inconsistent. A lot of the policies of the major parties are inconsistent, and then a lot of them overlap in ways the actual American voters don't like. But it just so happens to be that there are aspects of his platform that will appeal to liberals, that will appeal to progressives, that will appeal to the left, and there are aspects of it that appeal to libertarians, independent populists, and conservatives, and even some Trump supporters. David Weigel, semaphore reporter who we've had on our show, he said when he covered RFK Jr.'s campaign announcement that it was the most ideological, diverse announcement event he's ever attended in his career, which says a lot about the kind of support RFK Jr. is drawing.
And I think that he is where a lot of the country is. Remember, the Democrats have already sort of thrown the book at him. We see what their playbook is to try to diminish him, and it largely is on the idea that he's a COVID conspiratorial thinker, and that he's an anti-vaxxer. They've done their darndest, and it doesn't seem to have dinged him meaningfully. As far as I can tell, to the extent that there is support for him on the left, the only thing that's really diminished it is him coming out as such a hardliner on Israel-Palestine, which, of course, is the very issue that's motivating so many Democratic voters to not want to vote for Biden in the first place. So there is something sort of frustrating about their emerging a third way that is not actually meeting the needs of the public in this moment. I think that he was really prescient and had his finger on the pulse with respect to, let's say, the war in Ukraine. And there are a lot of people who are still going to say, well, 1 or 2 wars ain't bad. Let's go with that guy. At least he's halfway to where we need to be. But a lot of people on the left see it as more of a systemic, holistic problem. And if you can't differentiate, if you can't understand internally why it is that there are very, very similar wars with very similar postures, which say similar things about U.S. interventionism, then they're not going to trust you with one or the other. And they're going to stick with a more consistent choice like a Cornel West, et cetera. I'm also curious to see how those other kind of third parties emerge once we're in a general election context. And there's some legitimacy that's given to third-party candidacies because RFK Jr. is doing so well.
Including my own party, obviously the Libertarian Party is the largest third party in America. We don't know yet who our candidate is going to be, whether we're going to have a candidate who already has some name recognition or not. There are a number of people interested in the nomination, including Chase Oliver, who ran in the Georgia race, the Herschel Walker Senate race, and was the third-party candidate there, and was getting all sorts of accusations that he was, it's your fault. The Democrats kept the Senate, that kind of thing. He doesn't care. We libertarians don't care at all about that.
Love that for
Sorry, deal with it. Cry more. But he's a compelling figure that I like. So and there are plenty of other people in the Libertarian Party I like as well. So we'll see who ends up getting the nomination there.
Yeah.